Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and today we are going to break down all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the first trailer for the animated series, Stranger Things Tales from '85. Now, this is a quick and dirty Easter egg video, guys. This is live. I'm taking your comments here and there while I can and super chats. I don't want to be ultra focused on the super chats today. I want to get right into this trailer and talk about what it means for Stranger Things and where it's set. So, basics, first thing you should know is that this show is set in the winter of 1985, between seasons 2 and 3. So where we left off was Mike at the dance with 11. 11 is living with Hopper. She's able to go to school. And then we see the Mind Flayer was like still above Hawkins and Will's mind. When we picked up in season 3, it was in the summer. So there's actually a really big gap between the events of season 2, which were in the fall of '84, and then the summer of 1985. The biggest thing to happen in that span of time was that somehow the Soviet Union was able to build a secret base underground in the middle of America. I doubt if we'll get much of that in the show. I think the show is going to be a lot more focused on the kids and their interpersonal relationships, which we will talk about as we go along. So what we're going to do here for this is I'm going to, I've just pulled some stills that we're going to go through one at a time. Where it's laid out on the screen here, it's kind of awkward. So here and there, I may be like, kind of taking a minute to find something. But if I go like this, it's not because I'm frozen. It's because I'm either farting or looking for the exact right still. This is the first still we see in the trailer. This is the arcade that, of course, was it actually opened up the season 2 trailer, because this is where we see the kids playing Dig Dug, which foreshadowed the season where they're like digging tunnels underground. And then, of course, we go to Mike's house in animated form. So this is basically taking us to all of these places that we're familiar with from Stranger Things, and then just reintroducing them as an animated series. And as we know, basically everything in Stranger Things starts at Mike's house, right? Everything, all the campaigns start there, and the campaigns are a metaphor for the stories in the show itself. And moving on, let's see. I don't know how these got out of order. I'm really sorry about that. Let's just skip ahead a tad to... All right, so then we see Mike going over to 11's house. So when we picked up in season 2, the kids had basically going through like a lot of puberty at this point. This is where, 11 had feelings for Mike, and Hopper was all of a sudden this really intimidating presence who did not like Mike. And for me, I always thought that was a little bit abrupt. Like season 3 was never my favorite season of the show, just because I felt like it took Hopper in too much of an angry bear direction. He was yelling at Joyce the whole time. He was mad about Elle. He was mad at Mike. So this would be great, not just to see what kind of antics the kids get up to, but also to kind of fill in these character gaps that we kind of felt kind of abrupt in season 3. And right here, of course, we see Mike and 11. This is them at the dance that ended season 2. I think it was like the fall formal, which was a big deal for 11 because it was her first time getting to like go out and be around other kids and be seen in public and not have to be in hiding. And I don't know if you remember, but in season 3, there was a little mini arc there where like Max and Lucas were breaking up with each other, then back together. And 11 was briefly jealous of Max. She thought that maybe Max and Mike might be a thing because they went roller skating and stuff together. So we might see that in 11's arc as well, where she's got like potentially the most interesting arc this season, because she's trying to integrate into the rest of the world for the first time, and she's learning how to do that. And then we get this really sweet series of shots. So this is the Hawkins water tower we've seen all through the show. And then we get Max and Lucas. Now, like I said, Max and Lucas their relationship, they kind of like were making cutie eyes at each other at the end of season 2. And then when season 3 came along, they were dating, but fighting. And Max, of course, had a rough childhood. She has trust issues. But then we see this, and this is what I love about Stranger Things at its best. It does such a good job of using visuals to create a story here, where the two of them are sharing a glove. Maybe Max lost her glove, maybe because her family doesn't have much money, she couldn't afford 2 gloves, or they lost one of them and they couldn't afford to like pick up another one. But it's a really sweet visual scene that tells you everything you need to know about these characters without having to have somebody narrate it. I know some of you guys, like when we did our Stranger Things season 5 breakdown, there's a lot of plan explaining in the later seasons. There's a lot of like, let's figure out a plan to do this. Let's figure out a plan to do that. And I think this show is going to be a lot more straightforward. I think it's going to be, they will have plans along the way, but simply because there's fewer characters. This is before Robin was introduced into the show. before Murray was introduced into the show. We don't even see much of the adults at all in this teaser, making me wonder how much they're even going to appear in it. Okay, let's move on. We've got, yeah, let's go with this. So then Mike starts talking about a snowstorm that's coming and how the snowstorm is going to be how they do their campaign. Now, remember, D&D campaigns, especially when Mike writes them, take a really, really long time. And the snowstorm is going to be a perfect opportunity for that in order for him to be able to plan this long campaign. And you can see how pumped and excited they all are. Let's see here. You see Dustin's shirt says W heavy metal on it. Now, that's not actually a reference to heavy metal. That's because he's not like friends with Eddie yet. I think Eddie is the guy who got him like into Metallica. That is more a reference to the actual metal tungsten, which on the periodic table, which is an extremely heavy metal. So it's a fun little chemistry shirt. And I'm sure we'll probably have that up at our merch store at some point. And then we just get to see the kids being kids, man. I love this. Like, this is a shot where like Dustin was behind Lucas, going to throw a snowball, and then Lucas kind of threw it underneath his shoulder at him. And we just get to see the kids enjoying a snow day. Now, for you kids who grew up post-pandemic, a snow day is something that we used to do when we couldn't actually get to the school before remote learning, and we actually had to be present in the classroom in order to learn. And now you guys don't get snow days anymore. And I think that's really sad and criminal. Sorry to laugh at you, but it's one of the few things that were actually better in the 80s. We had snow days. All right, so then we see this monster coming up. Now, to give you guys a little bit of a refresher on where we left off in season 2, this is when the Mind Flayer infected Will. 11 used her, confidence she gained from her punk friends in Chicago to seal the gate. And as far as we knew, everything was done. But this was also the season of the pumpkin patch. So the pumpkin patch, which we'll see in a second, is where like this infestation from the upside down kind of took hold. And what we're seeing here is that it wasn't really closed off in season 2. We didn't really see much from the pumpkins other than they were rotten. But it turns out this was a small element of Vecna Mind Flayer that was left behind. And we're going to see that dealt with throughout this season. All right, moving on. Okay, sorry, this is a shot from earlier. This is Will, and I meant to point this out. This is Will when he's planning out the campaign. And to me, it looks like they're planning this out in the actual school, in the science lab. Now, that's going to be important because there's other shots of the school we're going to see throughout this where I think the school is going to end up being really important because it's closed for a snow day. So I think they're going to direct a lot of the action there, which is how, of course, it stays secret from everybody else later on throughout the season. And let's see here, looking for the next one. Riveting internet television, doesn't it, guys? Listening to me look for different stills. So then we get this guy in the woods, right? The guy in the woods that is going through and looking for this device. And now this to me seemed like a really obvious reference to E.T. The opening to E.T., you don't see the adults. No shot in E.T. is filmed above the eye line of a child. So this is where we get introduced to Keys Man, except in the case of Stranger Things, it's Flamethrower Man. And he's wearing a hazmat suit, just like the people who wore hazmat suits in the Hawkins lab. And of course, he has a flamethrower to fight the creatures. At this point, between seasons 2 and 3 is when the Hawkins lab closed. So maybe we're going to see how it closed. Maybe there's still people there. Maybe that's what occurs in this. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments. And then the other shot from E.T. here, if I can just find the split screen. Another shot that seems like it's taken straight from E.T. is this hazmat suit guy rolling up in the forest, just like we saw in the opening sequence of E.T. Might even be the very first sequence of the show. And then we get a good look at the creature. Look at this thing. It's something a little different from what we've seen. It's plant life, but it still has the mouth of the Demogorgon. So it's kind of like the same evolutionary trait of all the creatures that came from Dimension X that Vecna brought in. And really quick, let me check over. We got no super chats yet, but if you guys want to throw me a super chat or a question, feel free. We're talking Stranger Things, and I'm pretty pumped about this show. Let's move on. And then we see, of course, him using the flamethrower against the monsters, just like in every season when, the monsters in Vecna and the Mind Flayer don't like flame. And then we also get this. This is Dustin's camera that's got his Polaroid that says Curiosity Voyager on it. And of course, that is a real-life ship that was sent into the deep reaches of space that in the distant future is picked up by an alien life form and then becomes an artificial life form called V'ger. that is the antagonist in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And I'm doing that one for the select ScreenCrush fans who watch Star Trek and are always asking for more Star Trek. So there's your references. Forgot this one from earlier. This is 11 hiding her tattoo in her arm. I think this is a really brief shot, but this is going to tell us everything we need to know about her arc in this season. And again, I think 11 has one of potentially the most, like if you were going to pitch this show to just somebody who'd never heard of it before, I think you would say, yeah, there's this kid with superpowers and she's trying to, like, she was raised in a lab and she was integrated. Now she's integrating into society. It's a great story in and of itself, even detached from the rest of the Stranger Things universe. And moving on, let's see here. This is the kids celebrating. We looked at that one already. Kids having a snowball fight, catching up. Okay. And then we get this shot. This is of the pumpkin patch, April 23rd. Shakespeare's birthday is when this comes out. And throughout here, we're going to see different shots of the pumpkin patch and the evil that still resides there, left over from when 11 closed the gate. For instance, let's see. Okay, now this kid in the middle, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure that they're going to be just fine. That there is a reason why we see this kid in Stranger Things Tales from 85, but the kid did not appear in season 3. Maybe they moved. Maybe they simply had no role to play in season 3, or maybe this is some cannon fodder. And frankly, I think every bit of Stranger Things needs at least one character who's going to die, right? We always need like a little bit of cannon fodder in the show. If they have released who this person is, let me know, right? Wow, somebody on here. Well, that was a mean thing you just said in the comment. Don't know why you did that, but all right. Let's keep going. All right. Moving on. Like I said, sorry for the awkward pauses here. I'm going off of, basically, I can show you here. I'm going off of, I've got the slideshow pulled up on the computer, and they didn't load in order. So sometimes it's a little tricky to find them. But hey, guys, it's live. That's what happens when you do stuff live. Occasionally, you get technical hiccups like this. Moving on. This is Dustin and Steve in a box truck that we see in a second. So again, best relationship in Stranger Things. I'm super pumped that we're going to see it continue in this. And I don't know, like we don't see much of Nancy, or Jonathan's not in this trailer at all. So I'm kind of curious how much they're going to be in this and get involved. And here we can see Steve getting a really good look at the creature. And this is also a closer look at the pumpkin patch. And you can start to see these monsters rising up. Again, they're like left over from Vecna's infection of this world, which is interesting. You'd think that would tell them that, hey, this isn't over. The fact that like there were still monsters that were able to exist after the gate was sealed. And hopefully we get a little bit in this series too that's kind of like laying the ground for Vecna, because it never really sat well with me that Vecna, he came out of nowhere. You know, like he was just a creature, somebody who they threw in season 4, and then all of a sudden everything after that was kind of like a retcon and trying to get him to connect. All right. And this is inside the press office in the Hawkins newspaper where Nancy goes to work in season 3. So I think if I remember right, she had an internship at the start of this. So maybe we're going to see how her internship started, or maybe her like as a high school student coming in there to work. But again, it's been a while since I've seen season 3. And if I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments. So here's the monster. So this is Will facing off against the monster. We see him here with a mallet. Now, Will also, I'm going to be a little critical here and say he barely had an arc in season 3. Season 3, his arc, like he was still reeling with from the effects of like being attached to the Mind Flayer. And then, you know, his friends, Lucas and Mike, started to like girls, and he, of course, doesn't. And so he was feeling ostracized in that way. It'll be interesting to see if like there's anything here where we get some foreshadowing to eventually him being able to tap into Vecna's power, or him finding his courage, or at least a little bit more than what we got in season 3, because season 3 introduced so many characters. It was really hard to get any kind of focus on Will's storyline. This is a great shot from the sawmill. There's a lot of explosions. We see like a big fight happening there. This is the big showstopper in the trailer where 11 uses her powers to stop Mike from getting sawed in half. And this is the monster at the sawmill. That's not really a plant-like monster, but it could be interesting if the vines in Hawkins' lab that infected all of these pumpkin patches, if they're able to infect other plants like in and around the forest, that, you know, like maybe end up in the sawmill, and that's why the kids end up there. And I love the look of this creature. So I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but the scariest movie I ever saw when I was a kid was an 80s movie called Pumpkinhead. It was basically this thing, kind of like Jack Skellington, but more like Jack from Return to Oz, the second scariest movie of my childhood. So this creature just looks incredible. And if this is the kind of thing we can look forward to in this series, I think it's going to be more kiddie and more lighthearted. So we're not going to get any of that Stranger Things horror that we like. But for Stranger Things fans who, you know, like to watch stuff with their kids, I guess this is like a really good option for you. All right, we're almost through this. I haven't seen many comments except for people apparently who don't like the show, who don't care about the show. But thank you for watching the live stream regardless. Fallout episode 7, by the way. You think it's Collie? Somebody said in there they think it's Collie. I don't know. I don't know if it's Collie or not. Could be. And actually, it would be awesome if it was Collie, because I'm talking about, by the way, in this slide just back here, a lot of commenters are saying they think it's Collie. Now, it could be. She wasn't listed in the cast information that I saw. But I'm like the only one who likes that episode of season 2 when they go off and when she goes to Chicago and like taps into her powers. Sure, it felt like a backdoor spinoff that they were trying to do. But anytime they can do something to like make that episode matter more, I'm all for it. So I hope it is Collie. And let's see, catching up here. We got the awkward moment with Steve messing up a girl's name here toward the end of the trailer. And this moment makes me think, this is in the school, that we're going to see the kids draw monsters to the school like they did in season 1. Because again, it's a snow day. They don't have to worry about people being there. They can keep it hidden. And of course, this preserves the continuity of people in Hawkins not knowing that there's monsters all around. Real quick, I want to remind you guys, we do have Stranger Things merch for sale. This is the teenagers as Scooby and the gang. This is all the little kids as the Peanuts gang. This is one of my favorites. The one with the teddy bears, Return of the Jedi spoof based on Steve's line in season 5. And this is my all-time favorite Stranger Things shirt we have, like the Choose Your Own Adventure books, called Journey to the Upside Down. If you can shop our merch store, we always appreciate it. Links for those are down below. Thanks so much. Now, let's see. I think that gets through all the particular shots in the trailer that I was interested in sharing with you guys. The pumpkin patch to me is an interesting thing because this was supposed to be over with. They were supposed to be completely cut off from the Upside Down, and yet the monsters persist. I don't know how they're going to reconcile that with the start of season 3, when they think everything is hunky-dory and they're not really like on alert. But I'm curious what you guys think. So let's go to the comments real quick. I'll have you guys on here. Well, you know, we'll take comments for like 5-10 more minutes. Let's see. Fallout episode 7. A lot of people asking. Actually, it's one guy asking over and over. We did not get a screener for Fallout episode 7, and we're probably not going to get one for Fallout episode 8. That's how we're able to prepare them in time. So what we're doing instead is we're going to bundle episodes 7 and 8 together. We did cover that in our socials. If you want to subscribe to our socials, if we have news like that. We really wanted to get it done, but last week, because we're also trying to get our Wonder Man breakdown out today, it was literally just too many things. Colton's on vacation. Doug is nowhere to be found. I'm running the store all by myself. There was one other thing that's really cool I want to point out from the trailer while you guys are typing in your comments. Right here, I love the font that says Tales from 85. That's the Friday the 13th font. It's like an awesome addendum to the classic Stranger Things logo. And go into the live chat. Let's see. People, not much action in the chat right now. I don't know. I'm curious, do you guys think it's Collie? And I'm also curious, do you guys think this show is something you want to watch? Like, a lot of people weren't happy with how Stranger Things 5 ended. I personally admit I liked the ending. I thought it suited the characters, but the show just had this inherent handicap and that it went on too long. Like the writer's strike and various other delays, COVID really kept those actors like they were not just drinking age, but well into their 20s, and some of them, and Millie Bobby Brown had kids. I don't think you can hold that against it. And I think the creators went for an ending that like was really sweet because they came to love these characters over the years. So I'm curious though, as Stranger Things kind of ages into a franchise, right? Started off just as a cool show. Now it's become a franchise. It's on different media. It's being in different forms. It's already been in comic. It's going to be in books that are more canon. It's on Broadway. Do you guys think this is even something that can be sustained? You know, do you want the spinoff? Do you think there should be a Stranger Things spinoff show because they're doing a completely different show that How the Rock ended up in the cave? And when I say the Rock in the cave, I don't mean Dwayne Johnson. I mean the one that gave Henry his powers. Let's see. I hope to see a video for Cash Grab and Wonder Man on the shelves behind you. yes, we have the Wonder Man video on back order. We don't have cash grab yet because, well, the Wonder Man one's easy to get because in the show Wonder Man, they actually just have the VHS. So we're making that one. It's on the way. Micah Corbin says, my dream is that you say hi to me. Hi. Dream fulfilled. And let's see. Now, I don't think, this is a good question from Johnny Gray. I don't think this series is going to retcon the live action show. It should fit in perfectly. And I read live action, but I thought you meant live show, like the Broadway show. It should slot in perfectly. The only thing I can think that might be a little like, it's just because in animation, they naturally make things bigger and more overblown. Like when you watch the Clone Wars, the Jedi are able to do things in that series they can't do in the regular movies just because of the medium itself. You're showing characters do strange things like that. And they might do stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to, if the movement of the characters is going to stay grounded or not. I hope it does. And honestly, this is a big time gap. I think this is one of the time gaps where they would have maybe done a little bit more. And the other cool thing about this is we have never seen Stranger Things in the winter. They've hit every other season, but there's just so many inherent limitations with filming in the winter these days, like snow. It's really hard to find places that still get a lot of snow unless you want to go to Canada. But even then, snow is hard to film around. The cold is really tough. So that's one thing I'm excited about that with this series. Let's see. Have I heard anything about Sarah Michelle Gellar's return to the Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Not that I can comment on. I heard a couple rumors, but there's nothing that like I can get overblown about and like talk about, but you guys will find out soon. Here's a great one. Why no Marvel trailers at the Super Bowl? I'm so bummed. I am so bummed about the lack of Marvel trailers because I was kind of relying on them. I hope we still get them. I mean, the Brand New Day trailer's done. It's leaked. I don't know what they're waiting for unless it's CinemaCon. And let's see here. We got a great question. What do you mean? What do you mean the pumpkin that revealed the underground tunnels were turning into monsters and the kids never bothered or told anyone about this? I don't remember if I said that. Basically, I don't quite understand the question. Oh, why the kids didn't talk about it later? Because it was defeated. I don't know. That's going to be the main problem with something like this when you have a show that takes place between other shows. It's like the same thing with the Broadway show. Why did Joyce and Hopper never mention that they knew Vecna in high school? And what I kind of always think is those scenes just would have happened off camera. There are certain things where you either go, okay, look, we're totally cool with this kind of show, or we want everything to connect all the time. Sometimes they retcon it, like 11 didn't remember Henry. You know, she had to like retap into her memories. Personally, I'm fine with it. I just want a fun Stranger Things show that tells a simple story and gets me in a place with these characters again. Of course, they're not going to be voiced by the original cast because they're all too old now. But yeah, I'm still pretty excited. So let me know your thoughts, guys, down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Sorry, this isn't like a really like slick edited breakdown, but these are all the thoughts I had on it. If you had any comments or Easter eggs that you caught that we missed, let me know in the comments below, or you can at me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, or subscribe to me on my Substack. That would be a huge help. Or you can find us on my free to join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.